Hey everyone, I'm Joshua Orro, the Mustang Prince, and welcome to Mustang Prince Orro Reports. Now, as I said, in my top 13 scariest monsters in a live-action film, the ocean can be very dangerous. And while the Kraken is the absolute worst when it comes to sea mythology, the real reason why I'm scared to swim out in the ocean is because of these. Now, I've never actually been attacked by a real shark, but after my first visit to Universal Studios when I was 5 years old, I was deeply frightened. But at the same time, sharks are cool to encounter at the aquarium. Also, just recently, I've been reading up on the history of shark attacks, and when it comes to movies, sharks are famous in the 1975 thriller movie Jaws. But there are also a few other shark films that I know about, like Shark Night, 47 Meters Down, and of course, DreamWorks animated comedy Shark Tale. Bash me if you want, I do not care. Anyway, for today's episode, I want to blog a shark movie that I saw in theaters about 2 years ago with some friends from Vocational Visions, and see if it's equally as intense and thrilling as it was on the big screen. Released on August 10th, 2018, which was my mother's birthday, by the way, the movie is The Meg. Now, let's get swimming. Previously thought to be extinct, a massive creature attacked a deep-sea submersible, leaving it disabled and trapping the crew at the bottom of the Pacific. With time running out, a visionary oceanographer recruits rescue diver Jonas Taylor to rescue the crew and the sea itself from an unimaginable threat. A 75-foot-long prehistoric shark known as the Megalodon. So, what do I personally think of the movie? Well, like Volcano, this film was thrilling, but on the other hand, it can never top Jaws. But to further explain, let's move on to Mustang notes. The rights to the novel was initially acquired by Disney's Hollywood Pictures in 1996. Around that time, Tom Wheeler was hired to adapt the book into a screenplay. But having decided that his script wasn't good enough, the studio hired Jeffrey Boehm to write a new draft. Boehm's script was later rejected for the same reason. By 1999, the project had stalled, and the rights reverted to Steve Alten, the book's author. In 2005, reports surfaced that the project was being developed by New Line Cinema, with an estimated budget of $75 million and a slated release of summer 2006. Names attached to the production included John DeBont as director, Guillermo del Toro as producer, and Shane Salerno as screenwriter. However, New Line Cinema canceled the project due to budgetary concerns. The rights again reverted to Alten, but the film remained in development hell. In 2015, it was announced that the film was now moved forward at Warner Brothers with a new script written by Dean Jorganis, or I hope I'm pronouncing that right. By June of that year, Eli Roth was reported to be in talks to direct. But due to creative differences, Roth was replaced by John Turteltaub in early 2016. For those who don't know, John Turteltaub directed a few interesting films like The Kid, the National Treasure movies, and of course, The Sorcerer's Apprentice. Principal photography on the movie began on October 13, 2016, in West Auckland, New Zealand, and the filming ended on January 4, 2017, in Sanya City in Hainan, China. Visual effects were done by Sony Imageworks, Image Engine, and Scanline VFX. The visual effects team were challenged with not only designing a previously undiscovered prehistoric giant shark, but also designing the underwater environments and atmospheres, including realistic coral reefs, bubbles, and other sea life. Now, to be perfectly honest, before I saw this movie in theaters, I didn't realize that it was based on a book like Jaws was. Also, if you think this movie is a ripoff on Jaws, it's not. You see, there's a major difference between these two shark movies. While Jaws was inspired by real shark attacks in New Jersey between July 1st through 12th, 1916, The Meg is more like a sci-fi horror. Anyway, I like that most of this movie takes place at an underwater research facility called Mana 1, located out on a platform 200 miles off the coast of Shanghai, China. And, like with Aquaman, I just love the underwater scenery and visuals. Also, I think the scene beneath the Mariana Trench was both interesting and intense. And I thought the rest of the cinematography was absolutely outstanding, especially with how the camera was angled. However, I think the plot has a few ups and downs. While I do think the science and technology is pretty interesting, it kind of feels pretty similar, but way more improved, to the 2010 Piranha movie, due to the titular Megalodon thought to have been extinct for 2 million years. As for the Meg itself, well, this beast has got to be the biggest carnivorous fish that has ever lived on Earth. Plus, while we don't see the Meg until about 34 minutes into the movie, we learn that it can detect vibration and excitement in the water. Plus, it can be drawn to light, whale sounds, and blood. And, like Monstro from Pinocchio, the Meg swims really fast, just like a giant torpedo with teeth. But I'm kind of relieved that we don't get too many death scenes on screen, I think. Also, I think that Thailand cover of Hey Mickey is a pretty catchy tune, but at the same time, it's kind of bizarre for a movie like this. Anyway, that's all I got for Mustang notes, so let's move on to the cast. Our hero for the movie, Jonas Taylor, is played by Jason Statham, whom I remember from the Fast and Furious franchise, and voiced Tybalt in Romeo and Juliet. Jonas was a U.S. Marine until 5 years prior, when his last mission went awry, and he lost 2 of his men during that time. In my eyes, Jonas seems like the typical tough-as-nails action hero. However, he is shown to care for others, such as his ex-wife Lori, and his, spoiler alert, love interest Suyin Zhang. However, I think sometimes Jonas can be a bit stubborn, but overall, his best scene is when he cuts the Megalodon's abdomen with his sub and stabs it in the eye with a poisoned spear. Next we have Suyin Zhang, played by Li Bingbing, whom I remember from the fourth Bayformers movie. Anyway, Suyin works as a researcher in marine biology at her father's underwater station, Mana 1. In my opinion, Suyin makes a great counterpart for Jonas. Also, I think she's skilled when piloting a submarine, and she has interesting scientific knowledge. Plus, her 8-year-old daughter, Mei Ying, is another likable character. Finally, we have Jack Morris, the financier of Mana 1, played by Rainn Wilson, who played Gargamel in Smurfs The Lost Village, Galaxar in Monsters vs. Aliens, and Lex Luthor in the DC animated original movies franchise. I find this guy to be a tad immature, arrogant, and selfish, despite losing several members of his team. But when it seems like he finally feels remorseful and is ready to kill the Meg, his sympathy is just a cover for not wanting legal troubles. And now, let's move on to my final words. Overall, the Meg is a thrilling underwater battle. The underwater scenery is outstanding, and the rest of the cinematography is great. Also, several characters like Jonas, Suyin, Mei Ying, and some of the other Mana 1 team are pretty decent. Plus, the titular Megalodon pretty much gives any shark a run for their money. But, like I said before, it's not as good as Jaws, but it certainly is a lot better than Piranha. Plus, this film does have some intense action and interesting science facts. However, if you don't like shark movies, this movie isn't for you. But if you want to be in for something really thrilling, give it a watch, and stick around for the end credits. But I still do not recommend this movie for kids under the age of 13. As for my rating, I'll give it a 78% out of 100. Well, that's all for now. Be sure to join me again next time. And I think it's time to get reacquainted with the DC superheroine of truth. Only this time, she'll be animated. Mustang Power.